Hello and welcome to All About Billings. We are a show dedicated to discovering the people who make Billings a great place to work and live. We will interview local business people, community leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, and entertainers, and learn from their successes, their failures, and their connection to Billings. I'm your host, Nancy Brooke, broker and owner at Billings Best Real Estate. And today it's my pleasure to have as my guest entrepreneur and lady extraordinaire Suzie DeBar with Soul Fire Wellness Studio. Welcome to the show, Suzie.
Thank you, Nancy.
I love hearing all about your journey. Now, I've known you for maybe 4 or 5 years.
Something like that.
And in that time, you have really made some fun transitions in terms of your career. So why don't you start from the beginning, where you started, and tell us about what your journey has been like.
So I think back when I met you, I think I was personal training back then, and had a health crisis and decided I needed to change what I was doing, and became a coach, a certified coach in the process. And through that, had my own personal development, my own breakthrough in health, to have a better understanding of myself. So on this journey, as I've been doing the personal development with the coaching training, I've gone to different levels to where I really got to a level I was looking at some big things. And one of the things I was looking at was body dysmorphia. And in that training where I was looking at that specifically, I realized that I had a really deep shame of being Native American. Which was causing me to not be comfortable, which was causing me not to see myself in a positive way. So once I dealt with that, it's changed how I do things, what I want to do with my business, and why it's important to me about doing my business and offering the services that I do.
Well, and when you were in the health coaching, so you were doing personal training, you had a fitness studio, as
Yes.
I recall. And so it was all about health and fitness and, learning to, I guess, get stronger, more fit, all of those things. But then when you got sick, and went into coaching, you just completely walked away from that part of the business, right? So
Yes.
what was that like? And you mentioned the body dysmorphia bringing you back, but maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
That's interesting because when I was in that period, my future seemed very dark. I really didn't know what I was going to do because I had wrapped my whole identity up in being a personal trainer.
Sure.
So that was like, oh, what am I going to do now if that's not who I am? So it's really been a journey of discovering who I am. Who am I at a deep level without needing to be so identified by what I do. And to really understand my purpose of why I've gone into personal training, why I've gone into coaching, why I'm in reflexology now, and why it's important for me to help other people, empower other people, and just help people just feel better about themselves for themselves.
Well, a lot of us identify with our roles, whether it's me as a real estate agent, or me as a mom, or me as, whatever role we fit. You as the health person, the fitness instructor, the coach, the personal trainer. How did you get to the point of realizing that you were more than that? Because, I mean, we kind of know that, but to really be okay with letting go of those layers that identify us in the world.
It was really having that breakthrough around the shame, so that I didn't need to just identify with one thing. I could embrace different parts of me that are powerful and strong, and be able to embrace all of me instead of just this part, because I was so much pushing away from a part I didn't think I wanted.
Right.
So it allows me to invite all the different strengths and parts of me in.
And I can see, though, I mean, And obviously, it sounds like your journey is a little more intense than some people because you had that shame and not feeling whole in
Right.
yourself.
Yes.
And that's a different level, but I think a lot of us just have trouble. Like, I remember a friend of mine, so I lift weights. A friend of mine broke her arm, and she loves powerlifting, and she thought her life was over because she couldn't, and she eventually recovered from it and is powerlifting again. But it's kind of like that. Like, you think, who I am is dead because that's who I identified with. And so a lot of us go through that, even though, we might not have as intense of a situation as you had. It sounds like it was really digging deep and figuring out where that was coming from.
And it's funny that you bring up pain, because pain in itself can be very consuming. When I think you power lift, right? And I thought I saw that you had tweaked your back at one point.
Yeah,
So that pain, it becomes all encompassing.
of course.
And so people who are dealing with, chronic pain or whatever, it's like sometimes it's difficult to see outside of that
Right,
as
right.
well, and can be identifying.
But you had a health situation, but you also had sounds like a lot of emotional pain
Yes,
related to, your rejecting who you were. I mean,
I didn't know it was all connected at the time.
right.
I had the physical issue, and I just didn't know what to do with myself until I decided, okay, I got to switch gears and figure something else out. And that was just me being motivated to do something different, because what I was doing wasn't working.
Right.
And probably I feel like, my path of being a personal trainer or being a coach, like, was really a tool that helped me get through that. And my goal is to help people get through whatever they're going through, whether it's, minor pain, whether it's emotional distress, whatever they're dealing with, just helping them whatever level they're at.
Well, and so you went from the fitness, personal training, and then you took a step back. And then when you re-engaged with business, then you started doing some really interesting types of things, like you did the NLP, in which a lot of people probably haven't heard of, but it's neuro-linguistic programming. And then you did the hypnotherapy. And so, but it's evolved since then. So what drew you to that then as the next step, the hypnotherapy and the NLP?
Those were the tools that really helped me with the
Oh.
health issue.
Okay.
When I went through the training, I was looking at different things where that dis-ease was coming from inside my body and what was causing it. And those were the tools that helped me identify what was going on and be able to deal with what I needed to look at and make changes that were more.
So how does that work? I mean, not you specifically, but because if we're in pain, right? I mean, we think there's a cause, and the medical
Right.
doctor can either do a surgery, give us some medicine, give us some therapy, and we're all better. But it doesn't always work that way. A lot of pain is chronic.
A lot of pain is chronic, and chronic pain stems from usually a negative emotion. We're holding something in our nervous system, and that's the point where it's being held, and the pain is just a signal for us to pay attention that something's going on. So many times we're in pain, we don't know why, but then if you really stop and pay attention, what's going on? Oh, totally stressed today. Man, my back is really hurting. It's like, pay attention. What's going on? Oh, well, I'm feeling fearful about whatever's coming up, or angry, or whatever. It's usually there's a negative emotion attached to it.
Well, and sometimes we can even use pain to get out of situations too.
Yes.
I mean, if any of us have had an important thing and we're a little nervous about it, and the next thing maybe we wake up with a terrible migraine, or I don't know, slip and hurt our back, or
Yes.
it is kind of interesting when you think of it.
It's like a signal.
Yeah, how it's all connected. And it's hard to see if it's you.
It is.
I mean, if it's your own personal self, it's really hard to see.
Right, because we're just going along, and then all of a sudden, man, I don't know why my knee's bothering me today, but it's bothering me. But then when we stop, slow down, take a pause, and just really say, okay, what is going on? What's that deeper thing that's going on than on the surface? That's where the root of it is. But once again, it takes a lot of training to be mindful, be aware, and everybody is busy living their lives. So it's nice to be able, like you say, have somebody from the outside be able to ask some questions so that they can take that pause and reflect on what's going on.
Well, and you really dug into this. It's not like you did like a weekend class.
Right.
Learning, okay, well, I'm going to, be a hypnotherapist. I'm going to do a weekend class. I mean, you even went away for the NLP and studied it, and you can teach other people, although they might not have heard about it, but it's very intense.
Yes, I've been trained at the trainer level. I'm a master practitioner and a trainer. So I've done extensive training all the way through. It's taken me four years to go through all the training to be at the trainer level.
Yeah. And so what do people come to you with? What kinds of concerns or, what sort of, I don't know, treatments are they looking for? What brings them there initially?
For coaching specifically, or just Soulfire Wellness Studio?
Yeah, for your studio.
A lot of people are coming to me for reflexology,
okay,
which is working on the feet, finding the pressure point of a nerve ending to release whatever is there. Sometimes all the nerve endings end in the feet, and all nerve endings correspond to a gland, body part, or organ. So working on the reflex point on the foot can help relax the body, help improve nerve impulses going to wherever it belongs to in the body, and improve circulation. So once again, those are all going to benefit you and help you de-stress.
Sure. So some people are just looking for a little relief, and that might be their level of treatment, so to speak.
Yes.
And then what about, the ones that have the chronic pain and they need a little bit more?
They have chronic pain, and we have a conversation and identify, what's going on. Then I like to set up a coaching session with them so that I can help them be aware and just give them knowledge and information on what they can do to alleviate that chronic pain. There's a technique that I use that's something I teach my clients they can use for themselves. And then if they want to go further and release negative emotions, different things, then we go into more coaching from there.
Okay.
And like a full breakthrough coaching sessions.
Well, I think what's really unique is you have so many tools in your coaching business, because it's not just, nothing wrong with a counselor, but that has a role, but it's not just talking about things. It's not just going to get a good workout, which I'm all about that. That's great. Or having the reflexology session. It's really just listening to what's going on with them and being able to kind of meet them where they are.
Yes. To acknowledge them as a whole person.
Right.
Because so many times, I got a backache, but would you think that reflexology could help relieve some of that stress through the foot to help your low back?
Well, and this is, so I see a chiropractor, and she told me once that probably 80%, because I said, why do people continue to get back problems? And she goes, 80% is probably emotions.
Yeah.
And then there's maybe 20% that, something happened, you fell or had an injury. And I thought, wow, I had no idea.
I love that you say that. There's very few people that I can have that conversation with.
Who
would be able to be
like,
like, nah, Susie, you don't know what you're talking about.
What's my issue with all my, whatever. So I'm like, I don't know about all those emotions, but probably true.
Yes. For my school of thought, that's what I believe.
And so what would you say have been some of the funnest moments with this new journey you've been on with helping clients? I mean, you don't have to get into nitty gritty details, but just in general, what have you seen? Have you seen people transform?
It's been really exciting because I've had clients who, when I was a personal trainer and doing coaching, that I worked with, and now that I've Soulfire Wellness Studio, have come back and did coaching with me using the NLP techniques, and it is a night and day difference. I just talked to a client, I think it was even last night, and I said, "What, if you could say in 4 words, what has working with me done for you?" And she said, "I'm excited about life. I have motivation, and I have peace." That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's what drives me, because those are not like, those are not like physical things. Those are like deep internal things that have given her, she's made changes for herself, within herself.
Well, and why don't you, in a nutshell, I mean, I know there's more to it than just a brief description, but talk a little bit about what NLP is, just for people who don't know.
So neuro-linguistic programming deals with the neurology. We hold thoughts and emotions in our body. We used to think it was only held in the brain, like, oh, if I had a thought, it's held in the brain, but it's actually held throughout the nervous system. The nervous system runs throughout the body. Linguistics deals with language, and how we structure or have a problem is the way we talk about it. Language makes the problem and puts the barrier on it, because we'll talk about something in a certain way, and therefore it's a problem. So we have something going on, we take in information, it gets stored in your nervous system, and how we view that and talk about it determines if it's a problem. So then the programming is, when you work with me, I'm listening to how you talk about the problem so we can blow it out. Break down the structure of the language, which then creates a new way you perceive whatever it was, and there's no longer the emotional state with it, the thoughts about it, and it becomes different.
Well, and that really makes sense. It's just like, I mean, I'll give you an example from the gym. So you can get really intimidated if you're lifting a heavy weight. I mean, if you think about it and you go, holy cow, I'm going to get killed by squatting. I mean, you can kind of get yourself worked up.
Yes.
And so this is just my little trick, and I haven't studied this neuro-linguistic programming, but to say, oh, the weight is heavy, I'm acknowledging that, and then I say, but I am strong. And so I just kind of shift it. Instead of getting the weight is heavy, am I going to get killed? You know, I mean, but it's true though. If you kind of reframe it, and so that's where the language comes in. I never really thought about that before.
Yes. And then when you lift the weight and you can lift it, then you have the feeling that goes with it.
Yeah.
So now not only have you looked at it, saw it, felt it, talked about it with yourself, and
Right.
felt it, it all comes together that, oh, I can lift this weight.
Well, and there's just really, I mean, it's a really good place for feedback, because then if you are like all freaked out and you're thinking it's going to be really heavy off the floor like a deadlift, and you go, I don't know if I can do it, and then you start pulling it and you go, nope. And I see people do that. Like, I had one guy from one of my groups, he lifted it past his knees and then he dropped it because he didn't think he had it. And I'm like, I mean, all he had to do was just stand up and he would have had the lift, but it was his mind. And so that's the interesting thing, like what you're sometimes seeing isn't really what's happening.
Exactly.
That's what's so crazy.
Yes.
And so you are sort of the guide to help them get beyond this, whatever the thing is that's getting them
It's
stuck.
the mental block, the feeling, the thought, the emotion, and go back to the root cause of where that came from, identify it at the root so that they can deal with it the first time they experienced it, because you're not aware of it the first time.
Oh.
You're only aware after you experienced it once.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. So it's almost like, you know, like you're little and something could have happened even.
Yes.
Like maybe your dad pushed you away and then you felt really bad and rejected, even though probably wasn't anything serious, but in your mind as a little 5-year-old it was serious. And then every time somebody pushes you away, maybe you have this overreaction.
Yes.
Because of what happened. And so I get it.
And then so when you talk about it, I can identify the structure of how it's a problem for you.
Right, right.
So I just help people identify their problems and be able to help them acknowledge that. Because like you said, once you've acknowledged the weight's heavy,
right,
you acknowledged it, and then you're like, and I can lift it.
Right. And, you know, and sometimes, I'm sure it's just like this, sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get to that new way of being. So, I mean, just because I can have a weight on my back doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to get to where I need to be, but you know, it's almost like baby steps in a way sometimes, isn't it? Just getting
practice, repetition.
Right.
Our unconscious mind needs repetition. And that's, you know, what drives us to do what we do. When you were a baby, you know, you walked and you fell and you got up and you walked and you walked and then you got really good at walking.
Right.
Same thing when you first lifted weights, you really had to think about your form.
Right.
In order to lift the weight, and then when it got easy, then you increase the weight. So it's all repetition so that it becomes automatic and it becomes that programming. So that's the new programming.
And so if you have, let's call it the dysfunctional programming, which we all do. Welcome to being a human. Welcome to being a human being, right? We like to think we're perfect, but Lordy, Lordy. I mean, I remember having that conversation with somebody I was working with, and I'm like, she was mad about something. I'm like, hey, I'm not a perfect person. You know, I screw things up.
Coaches. I have a coach. I'm calling them up.
So, you know, just getting beyond, you know, how do you even recognize? I mean, you had a health challenge. I mean, sometimes that makes it pretty obvious you got a problem. But sometimes it might not be really obvious. You just know that it doesn't feel right, or things aren't quite working for you. They used to work maybe and now they're not, or you feel depressed, or you feel, I don't know, you want to escape life. Maybe you're drinking too much or just playing video games or whatever you use, you know. So how do you even know you have a problem? 'Cause sometimes people don't, do they?
Sometimes people don't.
Yeah.
I had a client come in and they said, Suzie, here's the problem. They talked about it, but they're like, I don't know what to do. And I just asked them a few questions, and all of a sudden then they became aware of why it was a problem for them. They just knew they needed to go do this thing. They didn't feel bad about doing it, but they didn't have that good feeling. But they didn't really understand they didn't have the good feeling until I asked them a few questions, and then they were like, oh, this is why I haven't done this, because I want it to feel like this, and this is how it actually feels. And so once they were able to acknowledge that's how it actually felt, they were able to look at it and they made adjustments and went on and did their thing.
Well, and you make a really good point. When we're conscious of what's going on, then at least we have the ability to start making a different choice. Because if we're not even aware of what's happening, how can we even decide anything different?
Exactly. So I would say that's what sets me apart with my coaching, is that I will ask you questions and let you discover what it is. Yeah. Because only you know what the problem is for you. I will listen to how you talk about it, how you structured it, so I can ask you questions to help you see it a different way than the way you know it.
Well, and there's the obvious. You got a sore back. I feel like I'm going to get killed with a squat. I mean, there's the obvious, but then there's the not so obvious, like you figuring out you're rejecting your heritage.
Right.
Me, maybe I feel powerless, and maybe there's something more there than I'm just acknowledging with, oh, I just got to get over, I had a bad experienced squatting once and I got to get over it, but maybe there's even more. And that's the interesting part because we don't see that.
Right.
Yeah. And so when you coach with people, I mean, typically how does the process work? Is it like a certain period of time or that you coach
It's usually
with people?
around 3 months.
Okay.
It depends on the client,
Sure.
but usually around 3 months.
Okay.
And what I do is we identify what the problem is and what context it's in. A lot of times people say, oh, I have this problem, but we don't break it down into a specific context. And then your unconscious mind is all over the place and it doesn't know what to focus on.
Sure.
So in order to like really narrow it down, focus on the problem where it's at, we keep it contextual and work on it in that context. I take a detailed personal history of everything, and then I go through, determine what NLP techniques to use to help them break through. I elicit their values in that context, because what we don't always think is that we have values, but they can differ from context to context.
Sure.
And we may be using inappropriate values, whatever, so they're clear and they know what their values are. Because if we don't know what they are and think about it consciously, then we're just kind of like making decisions without really knowing where we're going. And then we do the NLP technique work. They're like, Suzie, the problem's gone. I'm like, great. So then I do a hypnosis session where I feed all their positive learnings and resources that they've discovered and feed it back to them at the unconscious level. So it's easy to remember, easy to organize, and easy to know the right things to say.
Oh, that's cool.
That's right.
Yeah, that's really neat. And you know, the other thing I think that people sometimes they look outside of themselves. You know, I'm not saying people can't have a bad spouse, but it's my spouse,
Right.
It's my boss, it's my best friend. They're the ones that are the problem, but what they don't see is that they're the ones that are interacting with the person and creating this situation. And I'm not saying that there aren't people that are kind of jerks in the world. There are.
Right, absolutely.
But it's like, why are you putting yourself in that situation, and why do you keep on attracting those people?
What's causing me to either react or behave the way I am
Exactly.
based on the situation? So really helping people come back to, how is this a problem for me?
Right.
Versus they're the problem out there.
Exactly.
And then when they can identify, oh, this is why it's a problem for me, that releases the problem.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Well, I want to make sure you have a chance to tell people how they can get a hold of you if they're interested in finding out more about these wonderful services you offer.
You can follow me on Facebook, Soulfire Wellness Studio. My website is dbfitwell.square.site. And those are probably the easiest ways to get a hold of me.
Okay, great. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed hearing all about Suzie and her wonderful business. And I hope you will join us next time on All About Billings.